And welcome everyone to Game 1 of the MSL Code B Grand Finals. We are here on Derelict Watcher, watching the wonderful steam here in the middle of the map. And now we bring you your competitors. We have here in the bottom left-hand corner the pink Protoss, BrofessorX, and his infamous opponents in the blue, the aptly named BlueFox. So, we also have with me this evening a wonderful gentleman by the name of Nibbling that's agreed to help co-commentate these series for me and go ahead and cast things with me. So, go ahead and introduce him. Why don't you give everyone a shout out there?
What's up, world? Nibbling. Thanks for having me, Logan.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to have you here, and you know, just like everyone else, we're really just super hardcore nerds that love to watch games and talk about games. And one of the things that I really wanted to do with this channel of mine, the ocnLogan, and this is of course Community Starcraft event number 3. One of the things I wanted to do was be able to take some of these lower league games, things that you'd never ever really see casted, and give people the chance to feel what it's like to be casted, to feel what it's like to be in kind of a real tournament, and also remember, it doesn't matter what level of play you're at, as long as you're pretty evenly matched with your competitor. It's always, quite fun, and that's why all of us play games in the first place. So this is, of course, a tournament just for people that love gaming. There's nothing on the line here. There's no prize money. There's perhaps some street cred. Street cred's kind of like brownie points. You can accumulate them, but never spend them. But yeah, that's some of the things that I really wanted to do with this channel, and I hope to at some point in the future make something pretty fun out of this. So wanted to go ahead and give us some of the details here on what we are seeing going on across the map, and give us a little bit of a rundown on kind of what modern PvP is here in Heart of the Swarm, Nibbly.
Well, for starters, I really like the upgrade that the Nexus gets with Mothership Core getting Photon Overcharge. Definitely makes base defense easier on poor little Protoss races. Especially on this map right here, we've got narrow ramp with a huge ramp on the second. I'd kind of like to see some early aggression, even though the map's a little large, just because PvP, you're not getting rushed. Mirror matchups kind of allow that kind of fine-tuned controlling. We're seeing here that BlueFox actually got gas functioning and loaded before BrofessorX, but they're both going fairly gas heavy. But I'm seeing Professor with 3 gateways and BlueFox following up. So he got gas sooner, but the gateways later. I was kind of expecting to see a Robo Bay. So actually, for the moment, I'm not entirely sure what we're going to see. There's no middle map vision. Careful to note on this map that there is no Xel'Naga tower in the middle. So either you can have full vision on the long route, or you can go blind on the short route. And so far, we're not seeing either. Everyone's just scouting and otherwise staying home.
You know, it's a great point you bring up here. Talking about Photon Overcharge and kind of how that's changed the PvP matchup. PvP, especially around the time when the 4-gate was really, really popular, your existence in PvP balanced on the edge of a knife. And kind of what Blizzard has done to help PvP out, and also against other races, is that, like you were saying, that Photon Overcharge gives you another option to really help defend. And what it makes it is so a small, tiny mistake, like a slightly missed force field, does not mean that you're out of the game. And one other thing I just really want to point out is the fact that both of these players are scouting around their bases. Just because it's a mirror matchup doesn't mean that you're exempt from early aggression. It just basically means you don't have to worry about a 6 or 10 pool. As you've seen some proxy gate builds be quite successful elsewhere in tournaments. But both players being active and checking around their base, making sure that there's no cannon rush craziness going on. And I really like to see that out of both of these players. So congratulations, everyone. I'm giving you virtual high fives as we speak. One other thing. You called it on the robotics facility. 2 robotics facilities, in fact, on one base.
Oh, alright. Just a little later than I thought. Supporting 2 will be interesting, but, Let's see what happens.
We play by our own rules here in the MSL Code B. Once again, for those of you that aren't familiar with the GSL naming conventions, the GSL is the Global Starcraft League. Wow, my tongue got tangled like crazy right there. But the GSL has what we call the Code S, and the Code S is the tip-top, super awesomest players, you know, like Huck and Life and, you know, all those big-name guys that you hear about. Right below that, they have what's known as the Code A. The Code A, you can kind of think about it like the minor leagues in baseball. It's the people attempting to make their way into Code S. And here in the MSL, we have Code B, following that same naming convention. And these players are generally Bronze and Silver League. Although in this specific case, a little bit of a spoiler alert, these are two players that have since moved on to Gold since ranking. And these are the two Gold players in the Code B. So really excited to see these people up against each other. And we do see BlueFox making his way out onto the map significantly before his opponent. So we're gonna
now, just to point out, I'm pretty sure Professor knows that because our two observers not only left their bases at the same time, but actually crossed right over each other mid-map. So they should both be aware that each knows where the other is. Maybe that's why, I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens, because obviously he's not pushing up the ramp, which is good.
Yeah, no, I think pushing up the ramp right now would be fatal. There are equal number of immortals now, and the total unit count, it's actually, BrofessorX has a higher stalker count, just an overall a higher unit count, actually. It's not too much of a difference. There is an additional zealot, which zealots, depending on force fields, don't really make a huge difference. However, in the open ground, zealots make a huge difference, as everything needs to focus down those zealots before they can focus on the other units. And there are, however, now two more immortals on their way from BlueFox, so this could get to be kind of a deadly push, although I think pushing up this ramp would just be a little bit too difficult. But he did bring along a probe. So it looks like he's intending to make this pretty exciting for us.
For sure. And he's got the observer up top, and Professor does not have an observer at home, so he doesn't know that. And there's no cannon, so we can check his vision, but yeah, it looks like he is completely unaware that there's an observer in his base.
That's a good point, actually. One thing that I think will make a big difference here right now, and so a big conceptual broad stroke difference, BlueFox is expanding behind this. It's good. It's a good move. While you know your opponent can't expand, you expand. But because of that, one interesting thing that happened is notice that if you look at the production tab, +1 weapons is just finishing up right now for BrofessorX, and there's no upgrades on their way for BlueFox. So now there's an upgrade advantage for BrofessorX. The army sizes are very similar, and ooh, the Warp Prism. This could be interesting. But what you end up seeing here is the distinction between economy and teching here, kind of in a mirror matchup. It's very apparent, as both players are roughly the same food, roughly the same army size, but one's got significantly higher tech, and one's got a larger army size, but with less actual upgrades and things like that. So, just wanted to point that out for a moment.
That's it. It looks like Professor did get his observer up into the army of BlueFox, and I don't think BlueFox was able to see it, so he knew he was chilling there. So now he's following him, and I don't think BlueFox was aware that he got spotted.
You know, that's entirely true. And it looks like these immortals might get sniped down. Oh, instead he's just going to take out the proxy pylon, and this could be bad. He's might going to get caught in a kind of a surround here. And the stalkers up front, the immortals back behind, able to do tons of damage. Those zealots here coming in handy. Remember, they had to be focused down, and I think this is really going to go in favor of BlueFox, as these immortals here were not in ideal position. These need to return home immediately, or they're just going to be sacrificed for the greater good.
That is a lot of Vespene gas.
That is, that's a huge investment. There is an immortal here at the top of the ramp, and oddly enough, BlueFox not really deciding to go ahead and end it. So, and you know, I think that's because of, check out this huge drop back in here. We're watching back there. Our apologies, check this out. So it was a big set of warp-ins and a drop in the back from BrofessorX, and it looks like BlueFox is attempting to handle this. He's doing quite a good job targeting down those zealots, not taking too much damage, but these stalkers here just able to take out pylon after pylon. That will production block his opponent for a little while. He's not taking out tons, Actually, take that back. There are 10 workers
Well,
killed by
really
BrofessorX. Yeah, he did actually get away, so excellent move there. Oh, is he going to get away? The Zealots here blocking for the Warp Prism. Excellent move there. So losing the engagement in the middle of the map, as most of his units were not there, did allow him to do pretty well at the end in the other side of the map.
Oh,
so
second drop? No, moving on.
Yeah, he's definitely just got to...
Yeah, 10 workers to 1. 10 workers to 1. That was a good drop, in my opinion.
It was. I would have preferred to see a better engagement down here in the southeast or southwest part of the map. Although I understand with this APM being used elsewhere, it's hard to control things perfectly. Adding on back home. Woo-wee. Okay, so another robotics facility and 3 more gates. Keep in mind, so he's got a bank right now. He was not able to produce or did not elect to produce for a little while. But there's no way he can support that number of buildings for a long term, to be completely honest. You might be able to do 1 or 2 production cycles with the bank that you have. But yeah, like you're saying, there's no way you'd be able to keep that up. So now we have another... take it away.
So I'm seeing here in Professor's base, he just managed to get off a pylon that is... One pylon took out both the robo base and his opponent's base, but now here, on the edge of his main, we have an Artosis pylon holding up all 3 new buildings.
That's true. However, it looks like BlueFox is going to try to make his way up the ramp, and with the sentry putting down good force fields, it's going to be a pretty tough engagement.
Yeah, that sucks.
The Stalkers here were up at the front for BlueFox, and they took a lot of damage from those Immortals. 5 kills on that Immortal, 4 on the other.
Aww.
Forcing your way up the small ramp is really difficult. Also, one of the things we mentioned at the very beginning of the game was the fact, I don't like him making his way down the ramp. This is going to be really bad. All the Stalkers not able to engage the 1 Immortal here. It looks like he is going to decide to pull back. I actually think he could have held that position quite well. He had a superior Immortal count and a similar Stalker and Zealot count. Another big engagement here, the superior Concave going a little bit to BrofessorX, and I think really it was some move command that really ended up hurting him right there. These Immortals...
Yeah, moving straight into the Concave. Never a good idea.
And the main thing...
he doesn't see the proxy.
Ooh, okay, so there's, you're right, there's a proxy pylon here being left behind, but this Warp Prism over here on the other side of the map could cause quite a bit of havoc. I think it might get shot down. Ooh, excellent placement. Turn into it. There you go. BlueFox doesn't see this, but for some reason he decides not to go ahead and catch these Warpins. Ooh-wee. So now the units...
catch at the ramp, leaving... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have some Warpins in the main, or in the natural down here. The Immortals and Stalkers going to be able to take out this all-Stalker force right here. And now, BlueFox needs to really defend. He's a little bit caught off guard. He has a higher worker count by almost, 50%. But he really needs to be able to hold this.
Army. Yeah.
Ooh, the pylon goes down. He's not able to warp in there. He needs to warp in those Zealots. I love the choice he had of Zealots, because of the high Immortal count of his opponent, BrofessorX, but it looks like now the Zealots will be able to come in, and look how much damage they're able to do. They don't take any additional damage from any of these units, and it actually makes a huge difference. Those Zealots there being a crucial ingredient to the success or failure of this attack. So it looks like it's going to be a really close battle, both players continuing to warp in, as there is that Warp Prism that is being able to warp in, although I feel like with this number of Stalkers and how wounded they are, BrofessorX will not be able to take this one at this point in the game, and the Zealots they're just really able to do pretty good damage, and without Blink, these Stalkers will be chased down eventually, unless he spends considerable time microing them. And now with an additional Stalker back there.
There it is. I think sometimes in PvP games, the players are too afraid to go back to Zealots once they've started producing something else. So when you see them do this to correctly counter and step back down the tree, it makes you happy.
You know what? You're right. In the SC2 for Life tournament that Nibbly and I actually casted the grand finals in a live event. It was very exciting. But there was a lot of PvP in that tournament, and there was a lot of instances where I actually saw that same mistake, just like you were talking about, is players would go ahead and be pressed right at the gate, and we're simply not able to take advantage of the fact that stalkers are not very good against zealots or immortals. So what do we got here?
You guys see this, Professor X? Check out his natural. Tell me what's wrong with this picture.
So generally, if you see a fleet of units like this, kind of reminds me of some of those arcade games. You get to dodge all the incoming things. You have to shoot them all down, kind of like asteroids. And long-range mining is super inefficient and slow, but he doesn't have the money to throw down an expansion, and he needs one desperately because he's completely mined out. So
half the workers and ant trailing equals not good economy.
So BlueFox here, once again, having the superior harvester count almost by double now. The zealots here are going to be able to get up close and personal, and Professor X throwing down the lol GG, not able to out-micro those Jedi with lightsabers for hands. Looks like he's going to go ahead and tap out in Game 1. Remember, this is a best of 5, so it looks like BlueFox here will be taking Game 1. And we're going to be excited to see what the rest of the series has to offer, as that was a very exciting game. Some really good pressure from BrofessorX, some good Warp Prism harassment. I feel like ultimately it was his lack of ability to remember to expand. Remember, this is 22 minutes into the game, no expansions, and I think that's really what ended up costing him the game. So, we're going to be right back here in just a moment with Game 2.